Hello everyone, welcome to my talk. My name is Anna McDougall. Today I'm going to be talking about how to get a tech job with LinkedIn. I am so thrilled to be here. I really hope you enjoy this talk. I could talk about this for hours, but I'm going to try to keep it as snappy as possible. So let's get straight into it. My goal for this talk is to give you a practical, results-oriented presentation, which gives you plenty to do, right? While also explaining why I want you to do these things. So I want you to leave this session really feeling like you have the tools and the knowledge and you know what to change in your LinkedIn profile and why you should do it that way. So let's go through quickly what I'm going to talk about. First, I'm going to talk about me and about some assumptions I'm making about you. Secondly, I'm going to talk about recruiters and HR reps, why they use LinkedIn, or more to the point, how they use LinkedIn, and how this also helps you. Then I'm going to talk about the basics, so the things about LinkedIn that you absolutely must have correct, right, and looking great, or else there's not really much point in being there at all. And then lastly, I'll talk about some extra steps, some extra tips that you might not already know about, which could help you. So, about me and about you, why you should bother listening to what I have to say at all. Yeah, so who am I? Well, my name, as I said, is Anna McDougall. I'm originally from Australia, but I now live in Germany. My undergraduate degree was actually in media and communications, and I did a lot of digital media as part of that degree. I then actually worked in project management and digital marketing for a long time, where I also ran sessions on how to use LinkedIn, for example, for conference organizers and salespeople and sponsorship people. So I've kind of been at LinkedIn and teaching about LinkedIn for a very long time. To give you a bit of an idea, that was in 2010, so it's been a while. And then I made a huge career change. I actually became an opera singer, and much later I decided to go into tech, and I very quickly turned it around. In about a year's time, I went from being an opera singer to being a junior software engineer at Novatech Consulting, which is where I work now. And I did that using the power of social media. And part of that was, of course, LinkedIn. So I feel like I'm well placed to talk about this as someone who has done a career change, doesn't have a computer science degree, and is by all accounts relatively successful, I think, given my background and where I'm at now. So let's talk about you, right? These are some assumptions that I'm making about you. They are things that I hear over and over again from software engineers whenever I talk to them about LinkedIn, or aspiring software engineers, web developers, people who are just learning to code. I mention LinkedIn and it's like the eyes glaze over and they say, oh yeah, I've got a profile, but I don't really check it all that often. That's the first assumption I'm making about you. The second one is you might sometimes go onto LinkedIn to look for a job, maybe look at job listings, but most of the time you're going to be applying for a job through the official channels anyway. And the last thing is, and this is very common in tech in general, you feel awkward selling yourself. Yeah, you prefer to let your work speak for itself. A lot of tech people are very quality driven. That is awesome. The downside of that is that there is often this assumption that by creating quality work, the work will speak for you. And I'm going to hopefully explain to you why that thinking is a little bit flawed and how LinkedIn can help you get to the point where people can look at your work, right? Because self-promotion is a skill like any other. If you're not someone who is naturally gifted at self-promotion, I think you understand this point, right? It is not something that you just wake up born with. It's something you need to work at. A lot of social skills are like this. People gloss over this all the time, but you need to approach self-promotion and any other social skill just like you would a technical skill, right? You come up with a plan, you take some steps to do it, and then, as always, practice makes perfect. What you need to do, right, and what you need to think about when you're thinking about self-promotion as a skill in this case, is to view the job search as a series of stages, right? And each one has a unique goal, right? So the very first stage is getting an interview, right? It's that first job application. That's what we're going to focus on today. Once you've got a job interview, then we enter a whole other world of goals. But each stage is a different type of self-promotion and a different way in which you have to work. The second thing is that you need to learn to utilize social media, view it as a networking opportunity, and you need to come in with an I'm awesome attitude, right? It doesn't help to be gone on social media talking about everything you're bad at. Now, I'm not saying pretend that you're perfect. I'm not saying pretend you don't have insecurities. Yeah, you have to be honest. And actually, I think it's very healthy to talk about your weaknesses and to acknowledge them and to work on them. But on the whole, you need to come in feeling confident in yourself and projecting that. And you might find that sometimes by projecting that, you actually start feeling it a little more as well. LinkedIn is a great platform for this. Why? Because everyone is bragging on LinkedIn. No one is on LinkedIn like, oh yeah, it's just another day. No one, right? LinkedIn is all about what you are achieving, how you are achieving it, and it's about networking. It's the whole point of LinkedIn. So unlike maybe on Facebook, for example, if you're on Facebook and you're just talking to casual acquaintances, friends, etc., it might seem a bit weird to just constantly be bragging about how great you're doing at work or how much knowledge you're gathering or whatever, right? On LinkedIn, no one will think twice about it. So this is a great platform for practicing your self-promotion skills. And the fourth point is one that I kind of got to before, but I want to really drive this point home. You can let the work speak for itself, but no one is going to hear it if they don't actually find your work. So part of LinkedIn, part of social media generally, is getting you to the point where people are actually seeing what you're doing at all, and then they can look at it and go, oh wow, this is actually really good stuff. We should talk to this person. But you'll never get there unless you are able to promote yourself and get your stuff in front of other people's eyes, make them interested, make them want to look. So, who is looking? Who do we want to look? Recruiters, HR reps, these are the standard people who are usually looking for candidates. Let's talk about how they use LinkedIn. There are two general ways that recruiters use LinkedIn. But before I get into that, I forgot I had this slide. This is a really important point. Recruiters want to hire you. This is a really important thing for you to understand, that recruiters have goals, they have KPIs, they have things they want to achieve, right? And they can only do that if they hire people. That's their job, is to hire people. So just remember, this isn't a thing where they're coming in super skeptical. They're looking for a good candidate. So you need to put yourself out there and be like, hey, that's me, all right? That's the idea. So let's talk about how they use LinkedIn. The first is proactive LinkedIn usage. So recruiters can actually search LinkedIn, search for candidates by keywords, phrases, and of course, less and less location. They then see a list of people who match this criteria in some way, and they send messages to those people. And now I am talking hundreds of messages. This is totally a numbers game as far as they're concerned. As I've said, they have KPIs. They want to meet them. They are sending out, you've seen them, copy-pasted messages to developers all over the world, just being like, hey, I've got this opportunity. Would you be interested? Let me know. And it is only after they hear back that they might offer a phone interview, or they might just vet that person out, right? So really, they don't often spend much time looking at your profile. In fact, I would go as far as to say they don't spend any time looking at your profile. They see the keyword they want to see, they go, good enough, we'll send them a message, and then eventually they figure some good candidates will come through that way. So how do you hook people who aren't even looking at your profile? Well, you have to have prominent keywords. Are you a C# developer? That needs to be in your job title, right? In your descriptions. As someone who is career changing, perhaps, you need to remove the word aspiring. You are not an aspiring web developer, you are a web developer. Are you making websites? Yes, you're developing websites, you are a web developer. Put it in your job title. No aspiring. Get rid of it completely. No one out there is looking for an aspiring web developer. No one out there is looking for an aspiring software engineer. They want someone who's doing the work now. So don't put this doubt in their head, yeah? Like I say here, you're vetting yourself out by doing that. The other way that people use LinkedIn, yeah, recruiters and whatnot, is that they use it in a way that I call reactive. So before we talked about proactive, they're going out there searching for candidates. This one is reactive. They receive an application, yeah, from a candidate on a website or through their website or through LinkedIn or an email or even an SMS or a telephone call. And then they go onto LinkedIn and look that person up and then maybe give them a phone interview or vet them out. That stage is pretty much the same. But the message I suppose I'm trying to get at here is that that's when they actually go to look at your profile. So this is also when tech people are in charge of recruitment, for example, for their team, they also tend to do this, right? They tend to actually look at people's profiles. So, how do we attract those people? The first thing is that we need to have a strong banner image. The first thing people see is your face, hopefully, and a banner image. So we need to make that strong. We need to give a strong first impression. They need to show who you are and what you're about. We're going to go into more detail than this, so don't freak out. This isn't everything. And you need an effective about section that is short, snappy, no qualifiers. It's your elevator pitch. Now, when I say no qualifiers, what I mean is don't be like, oh yeah, if I'm able to get a job in tech, then I would like one that's remote, right? This kind of thing puts doubt in their heads, right? They're like, oh, what do you mean if you get a job in like, do you know what I mean? You have to make it sound like this is an absolute sure thing. You belong in tech. You deserve to be there. Don't put doubt in other people's heads. Yeah, short, snappy, direct sentences. Okay, so now that we've gotten that kind of clear, let's talk about the basics of LinkedIn and what you have to get right in order to really be on the platform at all. My subheading is a little bit facetious, but I've said delete LinkedIn if you can't commit to this, right? These are the absolute basics. All right, the first is connections. Now this one's really simple. I've put here, can you see it? Yeah, you can see that. It just says add everyone, right? This is not Facebook. People are not going to see deep personal information about you, right? This isn't even Twitter. This isn't even Instagram. This is LinkedIn. This is where you are trying to get your resume, i.e. your profile, in front of as many people as possible. It doesn't matter if they're in the same industry as you. It doesn't matter if they're in the same country as you. It doesn't matter if you've never heard of them and you have no idea how they found your profile. Add everyone. You never know who is who. You never know who's going to go where or what's going to happen in future. There are people who I added on LinkedIn years ago when I worked in project management who are now also in tech and data analysis. Now, I added them back then thinking it would be about conferences or whatever I was working on at the time, but now I've got all these contacts in tech. You never know what's going to happen over the years. Add everyone except everyone. That one's easy. Let's move on. Profile photo. All right, I've put these are some of my favorite tech people, by the way. And I have put their profile photos up here because it's really not that hard. A simple, clear picture of your face. You want to be smiling, or if you're not smiling, like for example, Catalan on the far right here, hang on, can you see my mouse? You can, good. Then you want it to be professional, right? Not scary, not like a blank stare at the screen, right? You want to be smiling or thinking. I've seen some of people holding microphones. Yeah, they're speaking at events. That's a good look too. Of course, there won't be so many of those going around right now, but hopefully I'll eventually have one of those too. But that's the idea. You want to keep it generally friendly, or somehow reflecting your personality. You see Danny here, he's got a little bit of a smile, so not as big of a smile, but he's also wearing a suit. So a suit, male or female, is the easy way to kind of denote, to denote professionalism. So I'd say if you don't want to smile for whatever reason, I would say pop a suit jacket on and you'll be fine. Your banner image. This should show off who you are and what you're about. Keywords are awesome here. I've put mine here: energetic, quirky, helpful. Yeah, it says everything you really need to know about me. It doesn't mention tech. I'm in this case running on the assumption that people know I'm in tech. Danny Thompson, he likes to have a collage of photos. I know for a while he also had a picture of the city he lived in because he was working locally a lot. This one's from Emma Boston. It's a bit more kind of abstract. It's just a picture of a keyboard. It says a lot though, right? And this one just kind of tells you exactly what's going on. This is from the host of Code Stories. So yeah, keywords, strong imagery, collages. You are allowed to be as creative as you want to be here. It's more about just understanding that you can do a few different things. You just have to express who you are. Job title. Now, this is the one where I think if you're watching this, you probably are not doing this right. Because most people will literally just put, for example, Nathaniel here, just has junior iOS developer at takeaway.com. Now, I reckon most of you watching this probably have something similar. You just have your position and the company you work for, and that's it, right? Now, you can see all of these people, myself included, give more information. And one of the main things I really want to push here is putting the languages that you work with or the technologies that you work with here, right? Java, Angular. I'm working with Java and Kotlin a lot at the moment. I'm also a motivational speaker and I speak a lot at a lot of events. So I'm also putting that in now in my title so that people see that. Anything that someone could search for, anything that anyone from HR could search for in that little LinkedIn search bar for candidates, you want to put in here. And a lot of them are searching by tech stack. Yeah. And by that, I don't mean right MERN. No recruiter is searching for MERN, MERN, by the way. They might search for React. They might search for JavaScript, right? But they're not searching for MERN. So try to keep things direct and list off some of the technologies that you feel really confident and capable in. And as I said, do try to cut off aspiring junior. Nathaniel has junior here. Personally, I don't like it, but I understand it's his job title, so I get it. Keywords. I've put here career changer versus veteran. I think that was more just to remind myself to mention the aspiring thing. If you're a veteran, you might want to put here something like software engineer with 10 years experience or something like that. Because just remember that a lot of recruiters will just see your name and your job title and your profile picture, and that's it in their search results. Right? So you don't have space to give them any more info. You have to put everything that is super important into this job title. Your about section. This is your elevator pitch, if you're familiar with that terminology. This is the answer to tell us about yourself. So, tell us about yourself, right? This is going to be your answer. I say for this section, don't be afraid of dot points, but whatever you do, try to keep it relatively short and snappy. This is Simon Hoiberg's. Personally, I find it a little bit long, but it is good in that he's kind of broken it up sentence by sentence, and he's dropped a lot of keywords: JavaScript, Node, React, GraphQL. You know, he's really making sure social media. You know, he's really telling people who he is, where he's from, where he's living. He's giving all the information up front that people need. I'm putting a bit less. I've just started my work, so I'm not looking for a job. I'm just giving that little bit of information. I don't know if you can see it. There's a fly buzzing around me and it is driving me crazy, but hopefully it's not bothering you guys too much. Bothering y'all too much. So try to bear with me if you start seeing this little fly coming in. For more information on this about section, I actually have a YouTube video. I've given a tiny URL here, so please do check it out if you do want to know more about how to craft this elevator pitch. It is something, as you can see, I've spoken about it for 8.5 minutes there. I'm not going to talk about it here, but I really do recommend you looking into that, because for me personally, I feel like that is the key to selling yourself for any job, and that includes in a job interview. So yeah, check that out. So those are the absolute basics. Yeah, the profile picture is good. The banner image is eye-catching and says something about you. The job title has all the keywords and all the technologies you're working with. And then you've got an about section that kind of gives a sales pitch for who you are and what you're about and what you're looking for. So let's talk about what else you can do, right? Let's say you're doing all those things perfectly. Well, let's drop in a few extras and see if we can't make it a little more engaging than even that. The first is job descriptions. As you probably know, LinkedIn is like a public CV. And like in a CV, I strongly believe that you need to keep things short and to the point. Dot points are the best. You should focus more on achievements than on duties, unless it's very unclear what your work was. You should mostly be talking about things you achieve, right? I'm saying, for example, if you're a cashier at a bank, maybe you filled in for a supervisor on several shifts. Put that, right? Rather than talking about my job was to count money and deposit checks. Right? People know that. People know what a bank cashier does. So focus on what you did that was special or went a little bit above and beyond. Did you win any awards? Were you voted best hair? You know, it doesn't have to be amazing or inspiring, but it's good to do. This is from Danny Thompson's, and he mentions numbers. Numbers are great. 30% increase, 7% increase. These are great things. Any numbers that you can latch onto kind of feel more like proof, and they will help you as well. The other thing I want to mention here, especially for career changes, find any and all ties to tech and highlight them. Yeah, I worked in my digital marketing job. I from time to time, used HTML and CSS to maintain the blog that we had going. Now, this was not a common occurrence. It was not something I did all the time, and yet it is the second thing in my dot points. Was it one of my main duties? Absolutely not. Did I do it? Yes. Does it tie me to tech? Yes. It looks good. And then the other thing I did was I was the administration representative for OH&S. Is it related to tech? No. Does it show that I took some initiative? Yes. So there are some important things here that communicate something about you without actually selling yourself. So think about those. What are some achievements that you can list off there? This is another thing I wanted to mention. This is a great tip. A lot of people don't realize this because it's right at the bottom. When you add a job description, if you scroll right to the bottom, there's this section that has upload and link, and you can actually link to or add posts you have made, articles, blog posts, whatever, to your job description. This is awesome, especially if you have a portfolio, right? Or if you've been working for a few years in, freelancing or something like that. Maybe you actually want to include some screenshots from websites you've created, for example. Here when I worked as an opera singer, I worked for 3 years as an opera singer at one theatre. And so I listed an article that I wrote called "What Has Being an Opera Singer Taught Me About Programming," right? To try to kind of show, yes, I know, this is not directly related to programming, but here's what I learned. So add those. They make things even more dynamic. So this is where you add it, and this is what it looks like once you've added it. Recommendations are the most underutilized point in LinkedIn, and they look great, and recruiters do look at them, right? This is something you really, you have to do. Anyone with whom you have had a positive working relationship should be receiving in the next day or two from you a message asking them to recommend you. And it's here, this is where you go down to recommendations, there's this beautiful button said ask for a recommendation. You choose the person, you talk about what your relationship was, which job it was related to, and then you just send them a message asking. So here's Agat, who interviewed me for a podcast, and I said, "Hey, Agat, could you write me a recommendation about our podcast interview? And I'll write one in return if you'd like." Right? Very simple, very easy. Most people also like getting recommendations, so this is a nice way to have a little quid pro quo and help each other out. Give recommendations and you will often receive them, and you should reciprocate recommendations wherever you can. The other thing is logging in and posting. And this is when I mentioned that recruiters can search for candidates. What I didn't mention is that sometimes the candidates are on equal footing, right? So how does the LinkedIn algorithm decide who turns up at the top? Well, it's by who has logged in the most recently, who is active, right? So you should be logging in if you are looking for a job, really looking for a job, you should be logging into LinkedIn every single day, or at least once a week. But every single day would be best. Even if you just log in and then log straight out again, this will help keep you at the top of results. The other thing is to treat LinkedIn like a work-oriented Twitter, right? Post stuff about what you're doing. What are you working on today? What are you trying to learn? What are you having trouble learning? What are some cool talks that you've been hearing lately? And you can, this guy just put a picture of his dog on a couch. I mean, it doesn't have to be complex. Just post about it. This friend, Ricardo, has posted about his free code camp certification. See, it's great. So do that. The other thing is that hashtags, whereas on Twitter you might use 1 or 2, on LinkedIn you can use 10, 15, 20, it doesn't matter. You can use them so liberally. Go for it. People don't look down on it. It's just a normal thing on LinkedIn. So go for it. So as I said, you might want to post about this talk. It's my little task for you and what you found interesting. So if you add me as a contact on LinkedIn, tag me in your post and I will like and comment for you. So I will start driving engagement just for you. The other thing is featured posts. So once you actually start posting on LinkedIn, you can use this great featured section. It's right underneath your about, and especially if you don't have the strongest CV, this fly, I tell you, if you don't have the strongest CV, this is particularly important, right, to have a featured section where you can say, here's an interview I did, here's a blog post of mine, I posted here when I got my job, my work contract. Cattle and Pit has a slightly different angle, which is also possible. If you don't want to feature posts, you can feature your blog, like a link to it. You can feature your YouTube channel, or you can just link to your website. Some people like to put their CV here. Personally, I don't like it. I figure you want to keep people on LinkedIn as long as possible. If you're crafting this amazing LinkedIn profile and you've got these great recommendations at the bottom of your LinkedIn profile, then you want people to stay there. You don't want them just downloading your CV and adding you into a folder somewhere. So personally, I don't like it, but you could, if you want to, you could link certifications, whatever you feel is important and shows you in the best light. So the last one, my last point, I'm a bit over time. I hope you bear with me. This last one's a bit scary. Contact recruiters directly. This is a tip I got from Taylor Desane. A big fan of his. Look up his work. He says, send them a message, open with a compliment, tell them about a topic or question you have that you want to talk about, and then ask for a video chat to discuss it for 5 minutes, right? The best thing that can happen is that they say yes and you start having a nice talk that is kind of like a quasi interview. The worst thing that can happen is that they'll ghost you, but that's okay. It's a numbers game. You don't take it personally. They've got a job to do. You've got other people to contact. You just move on off. All right, these are some other things that I have not found particularly useful, but I wanted to talk about them quickly because it wouldn't be a complete presentation without them. LinkedIn groups, LinkedIn learning, skills and endorsements. We're over time, so let's just skip right through that. And let's talk about wrapping it all up. That my goal for this talk today was to give you a practical, result-oriented presentation to give you plenty to do while also explaining why. I feel like I've done that. I feel like I've told you about all the key things in LinkedIn that are really important to make your profile stand out and that will help you get a job. And I've explained why in terms of how recruiters use LinkedIn and how they're doing searches and what they're looking for. So I really hope that you found that useful. Thank you so much for watching. Please let me know what you think. I struggle with virtual conferences and virtual speaking because I never have any direct feedback. I can't see your faces. I can't see if you're loving it or hating it. So please, please, please do contact me. Add me on LinkedIn, of course, but also on Twitter. I'm most active on Twitter. I really appreciate any and all feedback, including constructive feedback. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. Bye.